Hey guys, this is AlleXion X. I'm an artist from New York City. Today I'm going to show you how I produce a song, Spread Your Love, It's Christmas. You can find this song streaming on all platforms. Alright, let's jump in. Alright, so the first thing I did was I worked on the snare. So the snare that you're hearing, that's the first thing I created. And that snare really helped to create syncopation. So this is the snare that I used. After I created the snare, I'm going to play it from the top of the hook, just the snare. Right, so that is the snare that, as I was listening to songs like Motivation by Normani, Upgrade You, Blackpink's new song, Ice Cream, I noticed that it had this kind of snare that kept going throughout the entire song. And I realized like that's one of the main ways to create that syncopated feel. And you pair that with like a regular kick and a snare. So I'm going to play the regular kick and snare that I added to the hook. Just that, you know, and that you can hear in a lot of like hip hop tracks, you hear that kind of kick and snare. But then when you add that with this snare that I created before, I'm just going to solo that section. You're going to get this. Right? So you kind of create this dance between the two. Or between the three. Right? So then you get that effect. And then, because it's a Christmas song, and then added some bells, and then you get this vibe. Like a hip hop jingle bells, right? Right? So then after that, I mean, this is, to me, is like the core of the entire song. So when you listen to the entire song, like this vibe is what's really being repeated through the whole thing. And then I'll add like some hi-hats to add variation. I added some claps, you know, so you see here crash, you know, I'll play some of them later in the track. And hi-hats. So all those other things are just to add like elements of variation, tension, release, you know, because all those things are super important in engaging the listener. All right, so that's it for drums. So in hip hop, the bass is super, super important to the overall composition because it really keeps that energy, and it's one of the loudest things in the track most of the time, aside from the drums, right? So here I have the MIDI as the first thing I actually recorded before that. This is what it sounds like. So it's pretty simple, but I wanted it to like come alive. I wanted it to be more, have more movement. So here I actually bounced this MIDI, created an audio track, and then on the audio track, I added these slowdowns and speed ups. So I right click, and instead of using the fade tool, which would only make it quiet, right? I right click and then slow down, and that actually created this. And that's really cool. Because then it makes the bass more interesting. And you always want to make something interesting in your track. You don't want it to be the same. So that little change will excite the listener's ear and engage them even more. So it's always things you're doing like every 4 measures to keep the listener engaged. So that's one thing I did. All right, now I'm going to move on to talking about the horns. So now we're going to talk about horns. So the horns in this song, you know, there's some producers that I really enjoy, like Tricky Stewart, Oakfelder, even Tommy Boy. Some of these producers, they do utilize horns in their tracks at different times. Maybe not all of them, but these are some of the producers that influence my style for different songs. But for this song in particular, I like how in the song Motivation, they use the horns in it. Motivation by Normani, Upgrade You, Beyonce uses a lot of horns in her tracks. So I just wanted to play around with the horns because it's such I wanted to make it dance heavy, or just have that syncopated vibe, right? So here I have horns. I'm gonna play them so you can hear. Right, and right now it's just simply French horns that are MIDI. I use the MIDI keyboard to play them, MIDI from Logic, very simple. And then from there, in the next section, I actually layered those horns and added East West Hollywood horns, because MIDI can sound corny and cheesy and kind of weak, so you want to like stack them, but I didn't want to stack them yet. I wanted to wait a little. So as I went further into the song, into the bridge, I stacked more MIDI. I'm stacked real horns on top of it. So you hear it, it sounds richer, it has more resonance. So that's what I did there with the horns. So the horns overall, you know, throughout the songs, I just really like found a motif, found a certain like melodic idea, and just stuck with it. And you'll hear maybe a slight variation. I think one section here I added a variation that goes to the outro, because you never want to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, but at the same time it's important to stick with a melodic idea. There's moments when you can create variation. So right here I actually create a bit of variation right here. You'll hear it. That's the variation that I added, and I layered that with the rest of the horns right here. Right, it's not, it doesn't sound super exciting, but when you add just those horns with the overall track, then you get that dance energy. So I'm gonna play the rest of the track so you can hear what it sounds like in context, even that last hit. Right, then you get a whole experience, and you never want any one thing to override the entire track, unless, I mean, the only thing that should override the entire track is the vocals. But other than that, it's important to like keep instruments in your pocket and where they work best. So for me, horns are good for accenting or building like builds and what do you call it, like legato lines and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm not gonna make it so much horns that it overrides the track, and that's not the objective. All right, so we're gonna move on to sound effects next. The most fun creating the sound effects section, because that's the section that like is purely to create hype, right? And because I'm a pop head, I'm always excited to create hype in a track. You know, I love creating the foundation, but a moment when it's like, all right, now it's time for the candy, it gets me excited, because that's where you get to really engage the listener and use cool like sweeps and slides and stuff like that. So I'm gonna play the track and show you how I did that for this song. Right, so you have the haze. Right here is actually just my haze by itself. I'm gonna play that so you can hear it. You see? Hey, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Right, and then I added another hey just so I can get hey, 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 hey. So you just stack sounds, stack vocals, chops. Right, you can include your own voice just like what I did. Here I added other exciting little moments like and they're cool. So that's basically all the sound effects I used in the song. There are probably a few little more here and there. So after the sound effects, I basically, you know, one other thing that's important is adding another layer of melody, which I added here. So I just added some more bells. Right, and then in the rap section, I just took the exact thing that I have here, the section I just played you, and just deleted some of the parts. Because you never want to change the melody again. You never want to change the melody drastically. Sometimes you want to omit stuff just to create a syncopated melody. It's really weird. You get the foundation melody, and then after you play around with different things within that melody. So that's exactly what it did. And that's basically the instrumental. After that, I went into the studio, I recorded the main vocals, and that was the song. Spread Your Love, It's Christmas. And I enjoy the song, and I hope you enjoy it too. And I'm gonna play it.
Jingle bells, hidden bells, send us on his way. Gifts to you, gifts to me, reindeers in a sleigh.
So that's the song. And if you want to hear it, as I say, it's on every streaming platform. You can go check it out. And let me know what you think about it. If you guys want to extended tutorial, I can show you all the sounds I use, where I got them, so you guys can play around with it. And yeah, just have some fun, you know, whatever software you use, whether it be Logic, Ableton Live, Pro Tools, they all have similar features to what I'm using here. And you can always explore and try different things. Don't be afraid to watch tutorials on YouTube to learn stuff. Sometimes it takes forever, but eventually they'll get there, trust me. You know, I've been doing this for a while. So yeah, good luck with everything and happy holidays.